Hey guys, how's it going? Hope everybody's having a great day so far. Today, we're going to be looking at setting up a checkpoint virtual lab leveraging GNS3 and VMware Workstation inside of an Azure virtual machine. Now, for those of you that haven't seen my last video on getting VMware Workstation to work in Azure, I highly recommend you check that out. Now, the main reason I wanted to create this video was because of a similar series that I created, which can be seen on my channel. A lot of the comments revolved around the various computer requirements needed to set up such an extensive lab. And so I wanted to take the opportunity to talk about how we could leverage cloud resources to set up the lab if you don't have, let's say, a beefy enough machine at home. And for those of you that haven't already created an Azure account, I highly recommend you guys to take advantage of creating a new one and accepting the free $200 credit that comes with it, so that you guys could leverage a lab like this free of charge for a good amount of time, really depending on how long you have those assets powered up in Azure and how long and how frequent you plan on using them. So for this video, we're going to resume where my last video finished off. And we should already have a Windows 10 virtual machine as well as an ISO. But if you don't, I'll go ahead and drop a link in the description below to go ahead and download an ISO. And then we will also need a GNS3 installer as well as an ISO that we'll use to set up the checkpoint lab. In my particular case, I'm going to use R81, but you guys can use whichever version you want. So let's go ahead and get started by installing GNS3. So I'm just going to go ahead and proceed with the GNS3 setup using all of the default settings. All right, so the GNS3 setup has been completed. So we'll go ahead and start GNS3. Awesome. So now we're here at the setup wizard. We're going to go ahead and actually run the appliance on my local computer here. The GNS3 VM will allow you to run all different types of other kind of virtual machine and various appliances, leveraging what's called QEMU. This is going to be really helpful if you want to run like Cisco iOS and Cisco routers and things like that. But as far as the checkpoint lab's concerned, we definitely don't need to leverage that. We can for a couple of things, but running our appliances on our local computer should be more than enough. So I will go ahead and proceed with that. All right, just default settings on everything should be fine here. And we'll go ahead and start a blank project. I'll call mine lab. And at this point, we can go ahead and start putting our virtual machines in from VMware Workstation. Now, at this point, we only have Windows 10 set up. So let's go ahead and get a firewall and management server configured that we can then leverage to be used within our topology. But before we do that, we want to go ahead and go to Edit up here in GNS3. Go to Preferences. We want to go to VMware and go to Advanced Local Settings. All right, so once we're here, we can go ahead and drop this VMnet 19 down to a lower value. Essentially what this value is going to be the number of interfaces that can be leveraged inside of the GNS3 topology. So if you end up running out, you can always increase this number on the fly. But I'll go ahead and drop this down to about 10, and then we'll go ahead and click on Configure. All right, so that completes and should add some additional network interfaces within your network adapter settings. And we can go ahead and close this out. Hit apply and hit OK. All right, so let's go ahead and minimize this for right now. Let's pop over to VMware Workstation. And again, we have the Windows 10 already configured, but let's go ahead and spin up a checkpoint firewall as well as a checkpoint management server. As a note, I did increase the SKU of my Azure virtual machine. The first video I used 4 cores and I believe 32 gigs. I did go ahead and increase my core count from 4 cores to 8. But of course, depending on the amount of money or amount of credits that you want to kind of prolong, you may want to keep the 4 cores, but I did notice that performance was a little bit slow. So that's up to you guys. But another thing to note as well is if you guys use the default data storage settings, you might want to add a data disk, because as we can see here, I only have 80 gigs. This should be fine as far as demonstration purposes are concerned, but once the lab starts getting bigger, this will definitely be an issue. So let's go ahead and go to File, New Virtual Machine. And we're going to do Custom. Next. We could choose this ISO now. Just go ahead and navigate to your RAD one or other RAD ISO. Click Next. We want to use Linux, Red Hat Enterprise Linux 7, 64-bit. If you're using R80.40 or RAD1, RAD30, I believe, still uses the 2.6 kernel. So in that case, you'd want to do Red Hat Enterprise Linux 5, 64-bit. All right, so we could do CPFW for the firewall, and I'll do also an SMS as well. And again, I have 8 cores on this particular SKU that I'm running, so I'm going to do 8 cores with one processor. I do have 32 gigs of RAM available, so I'll do probably 8 gigs on this with 8 gigs on the SMS. That would be 16. And I do have 4 on the Windows 10, and I still have a good amount left over after that. So, and of course, you can always change this on the fly, but I'll use that for now. This doesn't really matter because we're going to be leveraging GNS3 to kind of take over the network adapter itself, but you can just leave the default settings. That's fine. This is fine as well. Default's fine. Create a new virtual disk, single, multiple, up to you. I like to do single. Maximum disk size, again, it's going to depend on how much storage space you have allocated. I'm just going to do, for demonstration purposes, 120 should be fine. Next. And finish. All right, once we're done creating the checkpoint firewall, we're also going to want to create the checkpoint SMS, security management server. Let's go to File, New Virtual Machine, and we'll do the same thing. All right, so now we have both virtual machines and a Windows 10 host set up here in VMware Workstation. I know they aren't set up yet, but what we'll do is we're going to actually use them within the topology, and we'll go ahead and set them up in there. So let's migrate over back to GNS3. Click on this computer icon over here on the middle left. Go to new template here at the bottom. Manually create a new template. Navigate over here to VMware and then VMware VMs. And we want to go new. We'll go ahead and import the Windows 10. And at this point, we also want to go to edit, as well as go to network, and then check this box here that says allow GNS3 to override non-custom VMware adapter. This is going to allow GNS3 to essentially take control of the network adapter of the virtual machine itself. And we're going to repeat this for the checkpoint firewall. Go to edit, network. And here as well, we can increase the adapter number of network interfaces on the firewall itself. So you could do like 3 or 4, depending on how many different interfaces you want to run off of it. So if you want to have, for example, a management network, external interface, as well as an internal LAN, and maybe like a DMZ, 4 adapters would be nice. And then you could do allow GNS3 as well to override. And then we'll do the same thing here with the security management server. And 1 adapter should be fine. And we'll also override. And we do apply and press OK. So now we can actually drag these guys into the topology. So we'll do checkpoint firewall, do management server, and Windows 10. We also want to leverage the NAT appliance here. to provide internet access to the checkpoint firewall. All right, so we have this all set up. So let's go ahead and start the wiring. You're going to click this little link button over here on the middle left. We'll do NAT 0 to Ethernet 0. So this will be the external interface on the firewall. Then we'll do Ethernet 1 to, let's call this, let's actually go ahead and put a switch here. So we'll go click on this little icon here with the 4 devices, and we'll drag Ethernet switch. And we'll link ETH1, so will be our management LAN, to E0 on the switch, and then wire the switch to these devices. All right, so this looks pretty good. At this point, we can right click on the firewall, go to Start. And we can do the install both at the same time. So we can go ahead and right click and start on this as well. If we want to do install Gaia on the system, and same thing on this one. Yeah, I didn't realize I had this guy on before I put him inside the GNS3 network. Let's go ahead and power him off, and I'll might let the install run a little bit faster as well for those 2 appliances. All right, do you want to proceed with the installation? Go ahead and click on OK. US is fine. Default values here should be okay, again, depending on the storage allocation. I'm going to bump up the system root to 25. Press OK, set your admin account password. So ETH zeros are external. We want to manage this through ETH1. And we'll go ahead and set up our management interface here. I'm just going to do 10.0.0.1. And we don't need a default gateway here. We'll press OK. And press OK. And the install is going to get started here. So let's pop on over to the SMS and get started on the same thing. I'll delete default values here. So I'll give this 10.0.0.100 with the default gateway of 10.0.0.1, which is the management interface off of the checkpoint firewall. Press OK. And that's going now as well. So we'll just go ahead and wait and check back in once these are finished. All right, we just got the installation complete message here on the firewall. And it says to complete this first time wizard, we need to go ahead and open a web browser and navigate to the interface's IP address. So we'll go ahead and click on reboot and check on our SMS at this time as well. Oh, and this one's complete. And we'll go ahead and reboot on this guy as well. All right, so to do this, let's go ahead and now power our Windows 10 machine on. Right click start. It says it's green, but since I manually powered it off, might have been a conflict there, but should go ahead and start up, I believe. Maybe toggle it, stop, and start. Here we go. Also not sure why the SMS is red, but okay. We'll see here momentarily if it works. Or let's go ahead and right click start. Since it's already started up, it shouldn't mess with anything. And while we're waiting for those virtual machines to get started, let's migrate over to the Windows 10 machine and get the network interface set up. For those of you that aren't familiar with GNS3, you do get a nice little server summary over here on the middle right, and we can see the current CPU and RAM utilization of the host machine that we're currently on. So CPU just over, looks like it pegs up to about 60s, might see it in the 70s. RAM is hovering about 73%, which is pretty high. Oh, CPU pegging 95%. All right. Now I believe I may have already done some testing, so this interface might be configured already. But let's go ahead and double check. Go right click, go to Network and Sharing Center. Go to Change Adapter Options. Double click. Go to Properties. And we want to change the IPv4 settings. And yeah, we can see here I already have it configured, but yours will probably already have obtained an IP address automatically. So you can just pop over here, give it something on the same subnet. I'm going to give it 10.0.0.200. Subnet mask will be 255.255.255.0. And the default gateway, of course, will be the interface off of the firewall, which is the 10.0.0.1. Press OK, OK, close. Go ahead and open up a web browser. And see if we can navigate to the IP address of the firewall, https:// Make sure to put that in the beginning. 10.0.0.1. Press enter. You should get this certificate error. That's completely normal. Go to advanced, continue. And we can see here we do have the Gaia portal. So go ahead and log in with your username and password that you configured off of the install. And we should have the first time wizard. There we go. So I'll go next. Continue with the config. Management connection, ETH1, correct. Internet connection is going to be off of ETH0. We'll go ahead and configure this a little bit later on. Host name, you can call it whatever you want. I'm going to do cp-fw. DNS, I'm going to give it Google DNS quad 8. Time looks good. Security gateway and or security management. We're not going to do standalone. We're just going to do gateway. Dynamic IP address, no. The SIC key. And finish. All right, at this point, let's see if we can access the SMS as well. So .100. And we have the same thing here. So advanced, continue. Okay, next, continue. Looks good. We'll do cp-SMS. Same thing for DNS. Time looks good. And this is going to be just management by itself. Admin's fine. For demo environment, of course, this is fine. And finish. And now we'll just wait for these first time wizards to go ahead and complete, and then we'll check back in. All right, once the first time wizard is complete, we will get this reboot prompt. Let's go ahead and click on OK. And one thing we may want to do is actually grab the Smart Console install package so we can install it on the Windows 10 virtual machine. And so we have traffic traversing the firewall, which is not configured yet. Let's actually just do it through the Azure virtual machine itself. And go ahead and grab the RED.40 or the RED1 Smart Console. Let's go here. To confirm that this is the latest one, let's pop over to the SK and go to Smart Console, April 8th, this one. Okay, once logged in, you can go ahead and download the latest Smart Console build. Oops, did not mean to do that. I actually want to open the folder. Go ahead and right click, copy. It's going to close this. All right, and what we want to do is actually paste it inside of here. And we can go ahead and start the install inside the virtual machine. While we're waiting for that, we can go ahead and reboot. Oh, it's not done yet. All right, let's go ahead and proceed with the Smart Console install. All right, press OK. And that's right, the security management server doesn't actually have to reboot, so it should take us straight into the Gaia web. And here we are. We're at the home page for the security management server. So now this is up and running. And the firewall is up and running. Let's check on Smart Console. Give this a second to finish, and we can log in and push policy. Well, establish SIC and then push policy and test the traffic flow. All right, so Smart Console just finished installing. Let's go ahead and launch Smart Console. And I almost forgot, one of the things that we're gonna wanna do first is actually set up the internet connectivity to the checkpoint firewall. So let's go ahead and do that really quickly. So log in to the firewall Gaia portal. Let's go ahead and navigate over to network interfaces on the left. You may need to change view mode to advanced if it's not already set. And we're going to be using ETH0. So let's go ahead and edit this. Let's go ahead and enable it. And what I'm going to do is I'm actually just going to obtain the IPv4 address automatically. You can manually set one if you'd like, whatever your preference is. Go ahead and give this a refresh. And we can see here it grabbed an IP off of our NAT adapter from VMware. So 192.168.232.130. And one of the things that we need to do now is set up the NAT gateway. So to go ahead and figure that out, you can go to Edit, Virtual Network Editor. We want to go to our VMnet 8, which is always going to be our VMnet for our NAT adapter. And you want to go to NAT settings. And here you can get your gateway IP. So we have 192.168.232.2. So let's go ahead and go to our IPv4 static routes. And let's go ahead and edit our default route. Add a gateway, IP address, 192.168.232.2. Save. All right. That should be it as far as internet connectivity. So let's open up a terminal in here. Go ahead and log in and see if we could ping out. And there we go. So internet connectivity is set up. Go ahead and exit this. Go ahead and minimize and log into our smart console. So 10.0.0.100, which is our SMS. Proceed. All right, so now we're in our smart console. So first things first is we want to go ahead and establish SIC with our firewall. So let's go to New, Gateway. We'll do Wizard mode. And we're going to do CP-FW. This is going to be what's referred to as an open server. 10.0.0.1. One-time password, which is going to be the SIC password that we created during the first time wizard. All right. Looks good. And finish. All right, so for right now, we'll just use the firewall blade. We can kind of play around with some stuff later on in the series. Let's go ahead and enable NAT for the internal networks. And let's go ahead and establish these particular interfaces. Security zone. Most leads to external. Yeah, that's good. We don't necessarily need to set up the zones right now, as long as it shows up as an internal network. That's good. All right. All right. And we can see here right now, there's currently no internet connectivity on this device. So if we go to google.com, we will get a timeout. We can also see down here, we have no internet access. So just as a test, this of course would not be recommended whatsoever in a production environment. Cleanup rule should always be to drop. But again, just in this test environment, it should be fine. Let's go ahead and install the policy. What happened here? Hang on. Check the track. Put that to the log. You can uncheck threat prevention for right now. And let's go ahead and install the access control policy. All right, policy install has been completed. And let's go ahead and test the internet connectivity. And there we have it, google.com up and running. So at this point, everything looks to be pretty much good. Of course, we'll clean up this rule base and put in appropriate rules. Come over here, everything looks good. I don't know why the SMS doesn't show anything here. We should be able to get that fixed. Firewall is the most important part, of course. We can see that's up and running here. And again, let's go ahead and take a look at our topology. Oh, cancel this. And this is it, guys. This is up and running, a GNS3 checkpoint virtual lab within an Azure virtual machine using nested virtualization. At this point, of course, you can feel free to build out the lab environment to however you see fit, create multiple networks, really do whatever it is that you'd like to do. But I will most likely be continuing this series, going through kind of different configurations. If there's anything in particular that you guys would like to see, please let me know, and I'd be more than happy to make a video on it. So thanks everybody for watching. I hope this was informative to you guys. I hope you guys will leverage this to create your own lab, and definitely feel free to share with me some of your topologies. I'm looking forward to it. Thanks, guys, and I hope you guys have a great day. Take care.